When you fight God's plan, the story of Paul. When God calls you, you always have a choice. Either you walk in his plan, or you resist it. But here's the truth. Fighting God's plan never brings peace. It only leaves you restless, drained, and stuck in circles you can't escape. Take Paul, for example, who was once known as Saul. Before he became the great apostle who wrote much of the New Testament, he was a man determined to fight against God's plan. Saul thought he was doing the right thing, defending God by persecuting Christians. But in reality, he was fighting against the very God he claimed to serve. Acts chapter 9 tells us the story. Saul was breathing out murderous threats against the Lord's disciples. He even went to the high priest, asking for letters to arrest anyone who followed Jesus, dragging them off to prison. That's how far his resistance went. He wasn't just ignoring God's plan, he was actively opposing it. But here's what we learn from Saul's life. You can resist God, but you cannot outrun him. On the road to Damascus, Saul's fight came to an end. A light from heaven flashed around him, and he fell to the ground. Then he heard a voice. "Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me? It is hard for you to kick against the goads." Acts 9-4-5. That phrase, kick against the goads, is powerful. A goad was a sharp stick used to guide oxen. If the ox kicked against it, it only hurt itself. That's what resisting God is like. The more you fight, the more pain you bring into your own life. Saul thought he was strong, but all his fighting left him blind, helpless, and completely dependent on others. That's what happens when we resist God. Our strength runs out, and we see how weak we truly are without him. Now, let's talk about the signs you might be fighting God's plan, using Paul's story as our guide. 1. You're restless and driven, but never fulfilled. Saul was passionate and unstoppable, but no matter how hard he fought, he was never at peace. Isaiah 26:3 reminds us, "You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you." If peace is missing, maybe you're walking in your own direction instead of God's. 2. You keep hitting resistance you can't overcome. No matter how powerful Saul was, he couldn't stop the growth of the early church. The more he fought, the more the gospel spread. That's a lesson for us. When doors keep closing, when your efforts keep crumbling, maybe God is showing you that your plan isn't his plan. Proverbs 19:21 says, "You can make many plans, but the Lord's purpose will prevail." 3. You hear conviction you can't shake off. Even before Damascus, Saul saw Stephen's faith as he was stoned. He saw the courage of Christians who prayed for their enemies. Deep down, he couldn't ignore it forever. John 16:8 tells us, "When the Spirit comes, he will convict the world of sin, of God's righteousness, and of the coming judgment." If you feel that inner pull, the quiet voice telling you to stop, to turn back, that's not guilt, that's God calling you. 4. Your strength turns into weakness. Saul entered Damascus blind, dependent on the very people he planned to destroy. That's how God humbles us when we fight him. Psalm 127:1 reminds us, "Unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain." Fighting against God will always drain you, because you're relying on your own strength instead of his. But here's the good news. Saul's story didn't end in blindness. It ended in transformation. God sent Ananias to pray for him, and his sight was restored. More importantly, his heart was changed. From that moment, Saul became Paul. The persecutor became the preacher. The fighter became the servant. And that's the hope for you and me. Maybe you've been restless. Maybe you've been chasing things that keep falling apart. Maybe you've been ignoring God's nudges. The truth is, you can't fight God forever, but you don't have to. Surrender is not weakness. Surrender is strength, because it allows God to take control and lead you where he wants you to be. So if you're tired of running, it's time to pause and pray. Lord, am I resisting you? Show me where I've been fighting your plan. Give me the courage to let go and trust you. When you do that, you'll discover what Paul discovered, that God's plan is far greater than anything you could design for yourself. Paul went from fighting God to declaring, "I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith." 2 Timothy 4-7. That's the difference between resisting God and walking with him. As walking with him, one fight drains you, the other fight fulfills you. So let me ask you today, are you still kicking against the goads, or are you ready to surrender? Because the moment you align with God's plan, everything changes. Share this with someone who feels like giving up. It may be the confirmation they need. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a word that could change your life.